Okay, so we are now officially getting up against it here. I started this whole thing, as I normally do, with a plan. And my plan has changed and morphed and morphed and changed. And now we're finally getting to where we're going to start shooting for effect. But I think this should be one of the last explanation videos, but I need to iterate again for all of you. This is for people who are experimenters. This is for all of those of you who have an idea and want to go try it out. Let me see if my focuses are good here. I can't really tell, but I'm not focusing on anything yet anyway. I'm just talking. So, years ago, when we were in high school, we had no money. And we would get old parts, and we would save up our pennies, and we would order parts from J.C. Whitney, and we would try to build cars. Of course, we didn't know how. And worse than that, we all drove old beater cars, 60s and 70s, Chevys and Mopars for the most part. We had to keep them running, so we had to learn how to do transmissions and motors and whatever. And I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again because this is what this 50BMG thing is all about. I had thrown a rod, got stupid, dropped a gear, threw a rod out of my old Nova, 70 Nova, and had a wedding coming up. Had to get this thing going. Literally junkyard parts, pop can shims because we'd stretched some rod caps. We threw this thing back together and we couldn't get it to start. And I remember we fought it to a start. Well, then years went by and I moved out here to the West Coast, and I was running into the same problem with it. I dropped a motor in a truck, and I hadn't done any wrenching for a while, and I was having trouble getting it to start. The difference is that out here I had a friend who's quite a number of friends who are actual mechanics, but one that I counted on quite a bit. And I called him and I said, I'd like to describe my symptoms, because we're not getting this thing to start. And he said, listen, Al, at what point are you going to learn that if you put it together right, it can't not start? Go back to the basics, make sure it's getting fuel, time it manually, make sure it's, number one, getting spark, but getting it at the right time. It can't not run. So that's what I'm using, this 50BMG thing. I learned a lot in my Odyssey. I tried to build guns, I didn't even know the rules. Because I learned all my rules from people who don't know the rules. Most accuracy has been arrived at empirically. People try stuff and, oh, this works. A couple that I really admire are Palmisano and Pindell. Set out to say, we are going to design a cartridge that approaches all the problems. I'm not saying that they said it can't not work. But they're saying, let's go build something that works, and let's do it from the ground up. They ended up using the 220R cartridge, coming up with something called the PPC, which stands for Palmisano Pindell cartridge. And to this day, it rules the world. Well, I'm trying to use that sort of thing on this 50BMG project. I've been going up through and illustrating accuracy. And now we're ready to shoot if we want to, but we had some weather, so I got mislaid, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to start something that's, number one, never been done. Number two, making up the rules as we go along. And number three, I'm going to use the mantra of, I'm doing the right things. It can't not shoot, in the same sense that if you put a motor together correctly, it can't not start. It can't sit there and go whoop, 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 whoop. That just means you, the builder, are an idiot. So I'm going to kind of talk about the best bullets that I can get at this point are not match grade J4 bench rest bullets hand pressed by some arm wrestler. Those are the best bullets in the world. In 22, 6 PPC, and 30. And I've got endless strings of groups to show what they can do. And yes, bullets are a big thing, but there's more to it than bullets. The gun has to work too. So, to go through and solve these paradigms and try to, the only thing that we're not going to approach in this is the shape of the case. I'm doing this whole experiment with plain old 50 BMG cases. I'm not changing the tapers. The case design is really crap. But I did this because I'm not prepared yet. I have to prove my points before I go buy a reamer and bench rest this bad boy. So for right now, that's not going to get approached. But on the subject of bullets, I have an episode on it. I'm convinced that as big as these are and as little affected as they are by the jacket, the only thing that's wobbly is that turned point might be. But I am convinced these bullets should shoot quarter minute. Then we get to the vibration issue. And I'm approaching that several different ways. But to start with, I'm going to go aluminum on all these builds. The accuracy of that's gained by the affixment of the stock to the action can't be overstated in its importance. A bench rest gun works because you glue the two parts together. The barrel and the stock are one piece. Now we can't do that with this. We don't want to. I mean, I could glue them together, but I don't want to. So we're solving that by 3 of these are built on aluminum billets. One of them is a pieced together billet, and I'm going to bring you up to speed on these. I'm going to try to set the stage for this. We're about ready to go. I'm getting scopes mounted. And I'm going to kind of go through point by point, and I'm going to show the builds, and I'm going to show what we've done. This is the lightweight one. This is the one that proves the concept. I had 3 points, remember, and well, let's just stick with the 3 for now. 3 points, 15 pounds, quarter MOA are the big ones. Well, this is the 15 pounder. I've left the other ones all a little bit heavier at this point. This has the minimalist muzzle brake. It's only got 3 screws, although it is pinned. This is the shortest. It's the shallowest. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 impact plates. And here's the things that I'm approaching. The longer it gets, the more vibration and shake and crap it's going to have. So the idea is to keep it compact, but and I'm sharing these thoughts with you just to let you know what's driving my thought process, because I'm using the term, it can't not shoot. I expect this to shoot. Now, the weak points on this one, and the reasons why this particular one may not shoot, is in the interest of saving weight, I made it out of pieces. So it's bolt together, bolt together, bolt together, bolt together. These are all Velcroed together. This is Velcroed on, which this is something we may talk about someday, but Velcro serves really well as isolation blocks. Trust me, I don't think the Velcro is going to hurt anything. I wanted a catch block because this is a competition setup. The problem with these is you tend to take them out and throw them away. This is the only lightweight. So this is the way I've solved it. I've got all of these set up with catches on them. So the bolt comes back, and hopefully you can take it back forward. This is hard because this gun is still heavy. Boom, in, up, fire, tonk, open, back into the catch. So that's my way around the speed issue, which is kind of number 4. To make these competitive, I have to get some speed. But here we go. Tiny light little scope, tiny light little everything. This gun right now, if I take the scope off, is like 16.5 pounds. So this is the number 1 gun that we're going to be testing. Because that's where we are right now. We're up at the point where I'm going to have to start proving my points. I'm going to have to start shooting for effect. There's a gun laying right here that you can't see because it's in the vise, because I promised everybody that I would show torquing one of these big barrels on, and that's what the main crux of this is. But I figured I'd also bring you up to speed. This is another of the builds. This is the original billet that you saw me that I used in the shaping aluminum. This one has only 1 joint. The rear portion is a billet. And I thought long and hard about how I was going to do this one. But in my functionable video that just came out, I realized I've got to stop, get these things out and shoot, and test them for functionality. Then I can do all the dress up, and I'm probably not even going to bore you with that. My lettering, incising lettering into the sides. I'm going to put names on all of them. I'm going to paint them all up, and yeah, I might show them, but that's not what this is about. This is not about showing you how to build a gun. This is about sharing my thoughts on how to make a gun shoot. So, from my perspective, this gun is ready to shoot for you guys. It's got a nice hold. Again, it's got the catch back here. It's not even trimmed up. I haven't even made this one look good, but I don't care. At this point, the 3 aluminum builds are going to be just tested aluminum to aluminum. I haven't bedded, glued, locked down anything yet. But I put on nice big known scopes. So we're going to start with aluminum to aluminum. This is kind of like when I went through the build with the trying 1 screw, 2 screws, 3 screws, 4 screws, aluminum blocks, coming up with my, which I believe I've proven to be true, with my method of building a bolt-together bench rest gun. And there's a reason for all of this. I'm using the same reasons that, for instance, early on I started to build a Nuvo. And I wanted to build this Nuvo as a bolt together, mainly because there's no wrench that you can use to tighten the action up. Now I've brought this to a whole new level because now we're dealing with 250 foot-pounds, which is why I put this video together. I promised I was going to show my 250 foot-pound project. And in the meantime, I'm giving you a quick overview of these guns. So number 1 is the lightweight one. Number 2 is one of the billet guns. Over here to the left I've got another billet gun, but it's all stripped down because we're going to put a barrel on. And my 4th build is actually much more conventional. This one is now partially bedded. I bedded a big aluminum block into here that I extended up. I feel that I'm getting the aluminum block inside this stock is affixed well enough. Again, I'm using the same methodology that I used earlier in my BR builds. I know I'm going way out of the camera today. This is a different design of muzzle brake. Somewhere in between. Put it up against the paper towel there so you can see through it. See if I can get that. Anyway, this is a much more conventional. It also has a catch, which I haven't built yet. This catch goes in underneath this. I just got this parted, so I haven't built it yet. I'm going to go ahead and shoot this while I can still, this bolt doesn't throw it, it's bigger and heavier. So this is a conventional build, and I also have a backup barrel for this because the barrel that's on this is a Lothar Walther, and that's an unknown quantity to me. I just don't know. So I bought a big full-size Lilja. This build that is on a Beast 2 stock will be quite conventional. It will be a quite conventional 30-pound-ish. That'll be under 30 pounds. I brought it down quite a bit. But this is like a, I wouldn't call it a state-of-the-art competition stock because this Noreen Action is a piece of stuff. But I'm cleaning it up. All the handoffs and all the cleans. There's a lot of handwork in these. I'm really impressed with these State Arms Actions. Man, they're handing off like beauty. But the next thing, the barrels are timed. The scope bases. I'm going to turn over here and show you some stuff because I have to change the lighting just a little bit here. This goes back to, I'm trying to make this into a long-term, all-encompassing type, not all-encompassing, but step-by-step build process so that you can see how and why I do the various things that I do and what they affect and the things that I've been harping on. as you remember, the things that I've been harping on are joints and fixtures. And I'm going to do that again just a little bit right here, and I'm going to show you how I do these big dogs. This is a nice big shoulder joint. And notice how short it is. Most of you are going to look at this and go, man, I've never seen anything that looks that stupid. There's only 3 or 4 threads there. Well, the bottom line is, again, we're proving a point that Harold Vaughn made. This is all that's necessary. Proper lube. Now, for years, I've used TrueGuard as my lube. Davey Dorman. It's still available. Davey has passed on, rest his soul. This is good stuff. The problem is these little containers, I just keep going through them. So now I'm buying, you know, big containers of stuff that I use. And if I really, these ones I'm doing 250 foot-pounds. So it's no big deal. But if I got something I really got to put the bone to, I will actually use lead-based anti-seize, which is $50 a pack for a little pack of it. The problem with this is it will build up a couple 10,000ths of headspace. So you lube this stuff up good, and I'm going to show you how to. Now, while I have this in the camera, I'm also going to show you some of the other things that you'll see these holes on here. You probably can't see the pins, but these are remachined, roughed up, grooved, degreased, epoxied down, but more than that, there's a pin, and there's a pin. These are triple pinned, and those pins are epoxied. The screws are epoxied. The base is epoxied because this is a very short surface for a big heavy scope. This particular one is getting a Valdata on it, which is heavy. It's not as heavy as you might. It's not as heavy as a Swarovski or some of the Schmidt and Bender or something. And it is a class scope. But what I need to show you here is the setup that I use, because earlier I showed a setup where I run my foot poundage up to 150 foot-pounds, and I had a couple of people say, well, yeah, that's all fine and good, but you talk like you can do this all the way up to 250 or 400 foot-pounds. I don't know if 250 is going to be enough for these big barrel joints. We're out here in dark territory. We're dealing with stuff that's, as I said, never been done. I'm all about the big shank, the big abutting surfaces. That's my focus. I order inch 350 barrels for all of my Magnum projects, the Hellbringer projects, the WSM projects, the, Lord forbid I were to use a belted Magnum case. I normally don't. But, get up to where we can see the setup. I just want, there's one other point here that I wanted to bring up, and I brought it up earlier, but I want to show it again. Again, it's so easy to illustrate stuff with these big parts, because it's, you can just see it better. I mentioned before the correct way to use well, I call it a crescent wrench. Most Americans do. The rest of you don't care what you think. There's a correct way and a wrong way. Most people put this wrench, I'm tightening here, so most people would put it on like this and bear down on it, because that, in first, that big solid metal, that looks good. What you don't realize until you think it through is that when you're bearing down, the main pressure point is out here on the end of this breakable arm, and it's trying to open these jaws. So instead, you turn this wrench over and you put it on, and I'm putting it on here naked. I'm not even going to put any shims in there because this is for video. And now I'm going to back this up again and show you that yes, it is entirely possible to do $250 foot-pounds. I come back over here with Mr. Leverage, and he's long enough that he goes on there And now I do my same thing, peeps. I take my bow scale. The difference is that I go up here, instead of going up 1, 2, 3 feet, I go up 5 feet, which is clear up here out of the camera. But you can see the idea. I take the bow scale, I wrap it around up here out of the camera, and I tighten this pig down to 250 foot-pounds. And those big threads don't advance as much as you might expect. There I am. That is 250 foot-pounds. I'm going to go back and reset it, but I just wanted to throw this in here and say, hey guys, this is how you can get 250 foot-pounds. You don't have to be some kind of a monster. This is the correct way to use a wrench. I did not scar that action. I've had these things on and off now a dozen times. This last one's getting ready to bolt up. And we're going to go out and start proving my points or not. We're either going to, we're going to win or we're going to fail. But the point is we're going to try to make 1/4 minute 50 BMGs of some weight or another. I want a well under 20 pounder, like a 15 pounder, to make 1/4 minute. And I think I can do that, but it might take me a better barrel than one I've got on there. Now I've got 2 projects with Bart lines, another project with a Lilja, another project, which these are known quantities, another project with an unknown quantity, which is a Lothar Walther, I believe. I should quit using that name without knowing. And then I have another Lilja in reserve. If I run into problems hitting my 1/4 minute, then my last backup plan is to take my state-of-the-art or my conventional beast stock that I've modified with a big aluminum bedding block and made it part of the stock, go with a completely conventional build from fiberglass to stainless to full-length barrel, because the other thing is, as you remember, these are all short barrels. So we'll see if I have to go to that Lilja and a big old 1.3" barrel at 28 or 30 inches long to find out. That will be the last thing in this paradigm, is to discuss and find out, do these bullets exhibit the consistency that allows for 1/4 minute accuracy? That's a big question. That's an open question. So one of these might have to be a test platform. While I'm on here, I'm going to also show you a couple of the latest breaks I just made. This one, just so that you can, I got 2 minutes left on this video. This is the latest and last. This has got an extra impact plate in it, extra screws here. I'm going with 5. This one I'm not as concerned about weight. I got 5 screws, 5 little holes, 1 big one with a tuning hole. This may well be the final iteration. I don't know. I just wanted to throw this on because these are a couple of breaks that nobody has seen yet. I've now got 6 of these big breaks and a bunch